Hey guys, welcome to another Friday. This is chapter 10. We are halfway through book 1. I cannot believe this, guys. This is gonna be really fun. Hope you enjoy. Chapter 10. They searched around the meadow a little, but still got nothing. Wait. Oh! Vex fell down, unconscious. Matrix ran over. What happened to him? He huffed. Freya felt a surge of energy. Archani, you fool! Fauna spat. Matrix, run! Freya cried, pushing him back. They only got a couple steps away before a blast of gray aura knocked them down. I'll find him. A low growl came from the aura. Freya looked up to see a human-fox hybrid, completely covered in fur, big blue ears, demon eyes, two tails, a snout, and sharp claws. Vex's clothes had ripped off, and it was just this beast in place. The aura shrunk down into his chest. He's going to need a real good beating, he growled. Then he ran into the woods, leaving a trail of frost behind him. Freya quickly got up and followed the trail, with Matrix behind her. Kroshimu finally stopped. Now what? Please don't hurt Blastier, Garashi said in his head. Kroshimu snorted.
Why do you think I'm out?
Kroshimu ran into a cave and found a crystal cavern inside.
I smell Blastier,
Kroshimu hissed, crawling through the cracks of the crystals. Garashi looked to see a beautiful village, the village of turtles. Kroshimu pounced into the village, and when he landed, he gave out a big, loud roar. No one seemed to care too badly.
What? That's all I get?
He spat.
Well, they'll start caring when I kill a few people.
Kroshimu growled happily. Garashi started hyperventilating. No, please don't, he said in his head.
Oh, hush.
Kroshimu growled, but instead, Garashi felt his jaw move. He could speak again. Kroshimu grabbed someone by the neck, and Garashi found the opportunity to get help. Help! Get me out of here! He shouted. The man only heard a whisper of it. Help! He shouted again. Another man saw what was happening and pushed Kroshimu over. Get out of here, freak! He shouted. Garashi got his arm free and shot it out for help. Help me! He screamed again. The two men saw the hand. They grabbed hold of him and pulled. We got you, kid, one man said, growling as they got him out. Once they did, the red aura sucked back in him. Wait, what that was, a woman stammered, walking over to the group of men. She froze when she saw Garashi. Get away from him, that's Kroshimu, she said quickly, taking a step backwards herself. Garashi sighed. No, just someone being dragged by him, he mumbled. The two men and the woman were confused. Garashi stood up and just walked away. He passed a blind old man who had a small music box shop set up. One on the table caught his eye. It was blue at the moment, but it was changing colors a little bit. The edges were painted with a gold finish, and there was a crank, and then he pulled to play music out of it. Garashi listened to it for a second, but remembered that he should get out of the village quickly. Kroshimu won't be unconscious forever, he whispered, walking away. Vex stood at the cave. In here, Archani said softly. Archani, you talk to me? He asked, happy that she was actually talking to him. Then let's go, he said, climbing into the cave. Freya followed the trail, but stopped at the cave. Matrix kept going. Come on, you obviously went in here, he huffed. Garashi made it to the end of the road, just as a pain started rushing through him. No, he groaned, trying to keep Kroshimu inside.
There's no better place.
His demonic voice chuckled, leaking some red aura out of his body. All of the people around Garashi got confused on what he was doing, but they got scared anyway. Vex quickly ran over and pounded Garashi into the ground. Stop, Kroshimu, he shouted. The name of Kroshimu got everyone rushing into a shelter. Vex, please, he got cut off by Kroshimu, covering him. Vex snorted and punched him again. Kurshimu, let him go, or face my wrath, he growled.
Archani, do you really think you can stop me?
Kurshimu cooed, slipping out of Vex's grip. Help! Vex, please! Garashi shouted, punching the red aura. Vex saw Garashi's fists faintly and only heard a whisper of his shouting. Kurshimu, this isn't right! Vex barked, grabbing and freezing Kurshimu's neck. He lifted him up and growled again. Freya came into the village and saw what Vex was doing. The ice covered more and more of the aura every moment. Vex? Rashi said, stopping his escape. I'll be stuck in here, Vex, he said, panicking, trying to climb out, but Kurshimu only pushed him down.
Pathetic! Is that really all you could do?
Kurshimu chuckled in Garashi's head. Freya rushed over and could only see the trapped, panicking Garashi. Vex, we need to get Garashi out of there, she shouted with a scared, shaken voice. Vex's face loosened. Garashi? He whispered, remembering that it wasn't just Kurshimu he was fighting. Matrix swung his hammer and completely crushed Kurshimu, which only made Kurshimu wince and run off. Matrix! Vex barked and then ran after Kurshimu. Kurshimu stopped to take a breath near the blind man's hut. How can I help you, young man? Would you like a music box? He asked, gingerly, giving a sweet smile.
I want blood.
Kurshimu growled. He opened his mouth to bite into the old man, but Garashi was ready to climb out. Stop! Vex shouted in the distance. Kurshimu pushed Garashi back down, but this time Garashi grabbed hold and bit into his paw. With a distressed howl of pain, Kurshimu yanked out his hand, but it only pulled out Garashi, forcing Kurshimu back in. Young man, are you okay? The old man asked, standing in front of him. Garashi was panting and staring painfully at the man. Yes? He said with a shaky voice. Vex slid to a stop. Kurshimu? He said, sitting like a dog. Freya and Matrix ran over too, and the old man chuckled. I'll give you one for free. How about it? He said, grabbing a brownish-red crystal. He sighed. Yeah, he cooed, grabbing Garashi's hand and putting the box in it. It just so happened to be the color-changing one that he had looked at before. Garashi quickly scooted away from him and stood up. Thank you, he whispered, unable to speak clearly. He stared at Freya with fear, and Freya tried to put a hand on his shoulder, but Garashi flinched away. Don't! He shot out. He was so scared and in so much pain, and he was just so tired. He just passed out. Blaster jumped out of nowhere and picked him up. She growled at Vex and Freya and ran off. She took a more fox-like form and continued running. Vex immediately caught up with Blaster. Drop him! He's not yours! He shouted, ramming into her. She stumbled over and whined. He's my best friend, she yipped. Archani almost took over. You traitor! I will not let you live, he growled, even though it was Archani talking through him. Freya ran over in her fox-like state. Vex, what are you doing? She said, grabbing his ear. Ow, fine, he mumbled, sitting down again. Blaster backed up herself to a wall, dragging Garashi closer. Blaster, you can come with us, and no one will fight over Garashi, she said, crouching down. No! You foxes think I'm a traitor! Why do you want me? She whined as Freya noticed a gashing wound scraped up by the rocks. Fine, he's better off without me. I took everything from him. Blaster whispered. She softly licked Garashi's face and limped away. Blaster, but... Freya couldn't find the words. Freya pulled out the crystal box that the old man had given Garashi. Let's go, she whispered. Vex picked up Garashi and sniffed at him. It's not Garashi. Kurshimu's grown stronger, he said, still inspecting him. Freya frowned and her ears went down. But Garashi, she whispered. I can't believe I let Blaster go. Kurshimu will kill me. Vexfaunus hissed. We can't bring him back, Vex said softly, walking outside and setting him down with a sad sigh. Vex ran back into the woods. Freya stood there looking at Garashi. She set down the music box and gave him a kiss on the cheek. We'll see you again, brave young man, Matrix said, softly huffing. Matrix picked up Freya and walked away. Garashi woke up in the black and white realm, but there were many burned things everywhere. Kroshimu! He yelled, very frightened, and he backed up against the wall behind him. Kroshimu growled.
I'll let you go for now, but I'll be back one day, and you better be ready.
He bared his teeth and walked off, fading away into the black and white world. Vex made it halfway to the Minotaur mansion, but he was stopped by a parson. Move! He shouted, trying to pass it. It hissed and blew fire at him. Oh ho ho, kitty! He growled. Vex chuckled and impaled it with a blade of ice, but a moment later he was completely surrounded by parsons. Bring it! He screamed, completely annoyed that he couldn't take a rest. They all plummeted on him. Fire, ice, teeth, and claws were thrown everywhere, and joining the fight was a skulk of foxes, an electrical one of water, and one of metal. Then, swooping from the trees after, was a boy, but he had a raccoon tail and ears. Roar! He shouted sarcastically. They all got rid of the monsters and circled around Vex. He was unconscious and covered in wounds. Blade! Pip pip! The boy said, looking at Vex. The metal armored fox scooped up Vex and sneezed. Taser? Zip! He said next, waving a hand. The neon yellow fox yipped happily and walked over and picked up the boy. Good! Salmon! That's... The boy chuckled next. The water fox left the monsters some water lilies and licked the grass, leaving a puddle, and then they just left, taking Vex with them. Freya and Matrix walked by the pile of monsters in the puddle. What happened here? Freya said softly, getting down from Matrix's shoulder. Vex was taken and attacked, Matrix said thoughtfully for a moment. What? Freya shouted. She was all alone. No more friends except for her protector, Matrix. I want to go home, she whimpered, but Matrix didn't hear. What was that, Freya? He asked. Freya combed her hands through her hair. I want to go home, she said again. Matrix walked around to see her face covered in tears and her eyes glued shut. Freya, he huffed softly. You can go, but... He knelt down. I won't leave you, he said, putting a hand on her cheek. They left for the snake village, and not long after, it started to rain. But Freya kept walking, folding her arms in for warmth. Matrix wasn't bothered by the rain, but he still had a frown on his face, looking at Freya for most of the time. Once they got to the village, there was lightning every so often. I'll be right behind you, Matrix said, patting Freya's shoulder. Freya nodded, and they walked to her house, but she hesitated to knock. You got this, Freya. I won't be much of a bother, Vexfaunus whispered. Then Freya took a deep breath and knocked. The door opened, and it was her dad. He first was looking at Matrix, but then looked down at Freya. Matrix skeptically stepped back, and Hotch's eyes widened. Hi, Dad, she whispered quickly. Freya gave a small smile and looked up at him. Rashi walked to the nearest cave when it started raining. Oh, I don't know what to do now, he whispered softly. I'm actually going to train. I'm going to learn how to fight against his dark magic, he said somberly, hand to fist. Grashi found a flat ledge and started meditating. Just 5 minutes, he whispered, drifting off into a meditation. Hotch stepped back with his hands in fists. Demon! He shouted. Freya immediately had the blood drain from her face. Freya's mom rushed over to see what was happening. Hotcha? She said, trying to see past him. Mom! Freya yelped, almost scared of herself. Hacha, who is it? What demon? She said in a sweet, caring voice. Mom, she said, getting louder. It's a demon, Hacha hissed, slipping out a knife from his pocket. Freya's mom just had enough time to see who it was. Hacha, how dare you? That is our daughter, she said in a loud, disappointed voice. Freya was shocked, almost hyperventilating. My own dad calling me a demon? He was my dad, right? She thought. Matrix huffed angrily behind her. He was disappointed as well. Let me see my daughter, you foolish man! Freya's mom yelled, pushing Hacha away. She stepped down to Freya and hugged her. Mom! Freya cried quickly and hugged her back. She felt a lot better. I'm sorry, she whispered, and Freya was confused. Why did she say it like that? Vecfana said. Just a moment later, Freya felt a blade shooting through her back. Mom, she said, stepping back. Matrix howled. How dare you! He shouted. A sword on your own daughter? He growled. Freya immediately panicked and fell to her knees. But, she whispered. Freya's mother folded her arms and had the saddest, guiltless look on her face. Navia, come on! She's dead now! Hacha shouted, looking sneakily at Matrix. Freya looked down and saw the blade showing through her chest. She shot her head back at her mother, but she was already walking back to the house as she cried. Matrix, she whispered, and then fell to the floor, pushing the blade all the way through. There was blood and rain everywhere, and on the tip of the sword was Freya's heart. Matrix panicked. Freya! Freya, no! I'll do anything to make you better! Freya! He yelled, crying for the first time. Navia was staring blankly out the window, crying heavily. No, 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 no! Vecfana shouted. There's always a way, she growled. Matrix opened his eyes to an orange aura pouring out of Freya, then sand. The aura mixed with the sand and formed into Vecfana's. She was too sad, but still trying to find a way to keep Freya alive. Then, the final idea came to her. I'll save her, Vecfana said, poking her nose onto Freya. Covered her in sand, and then Vecfana soaked into Freya and slowly healed back to what she was before, but with an added glow and longer hair. Matrix huffed, confused, and held Freya's head up, noticed that she had fox ears and a tail. Freya, he whispered, brushing her hair out of her face. He looked deeply at her. You have longer hair now, he said concerningly, trying to chuckle. The rain slowed to a stop and the sun came out, and Navia wanted to as well. Red orbs came from all around, and they lifted Freya, and then she started breathing again. Matrix stood up and smiled softly. The red orbs faded away as an orange aura burst out.
You really think killing me would be that easy, huh?
Freya growled in a deep, demonic-like voice. Her ears perked up and her tail raised.
You must be mistaken.
She laughed. Her aura grew bigger and she gave a deep snarl as she jumped into the house.
Peekaboo!
She shouted, burning the roof. Hacha ran at her with his sword, but Navia stopped him. Please, stop this nonsense. I'm done doing your work, she shouted with tears soaking her face. Please, Hacha, leave my daughter alone, she yelled again, pushing at his chest with no effect. Freya gave a judgmental look and growled.
No tricks?
She asked. Navia sincerely nodded and looked down in despair.
Fine, I see no lines.
She huffed. Freya gathered sand and lifted Navia out of the house and onto the road.
You're welcome to stay, though. We're going to have some fun.
Freya said, laughing manically at Hacha. She quickly punched the ground and fire burst out everywhere. Hacha panicked as he was surrounded by fire and smoke. She climbed out of the fire and acted as if nothing had happened, patting her pants from the ash. Matrix flapped his ears. "Freya!" he shouted happily. "You're safe now," he whispered softly in her ear, and they hugged. Navia was hesitant to speak, even to see the way her daughter was now. Freya felt very little pain now. Even her emotions were calmed down, especially with Matrix right by her side. When the hug ended, Freya remembered about Navia. "So," she said in a normal voice. "So?" Navia whispered back. Freya walked up to her and stared deeply into her eyes. She saw a fearful look, mixed with longing hope in her eyes. "Was this what you wanted?" she asked in a disappointed tone. I don't think you deserve me," Navia said. "I wish I could still call you my mother," Freya said. Matrix stepped over, confused, and put a hand on Freya's shoulder and gave a concerned look. Navia hung her head. "It's fine. I don't deserve an extraordinary girl such as you," she whispered, and walked off into town. Freya watched her leave and shook her sad emotions away. Matrix and Freya walked back out of the village and returned to the Minotaur mansion. The Minotaurs decided that Freya could now be considered a Minotaur of the mansion, even though she wasn't a Minotaur. "Freya, I like the new look," Patron chuckled, opening the gate. "And, the ears, the long hair, like the black glittering eyes with are those stars?" "Ooh, stars for pupils instead of just the ordinary round or like fox or whatever, but that's fun." They relaxed a lot and worked half the week, and sometimes Freya would play with the kids. Every once in a while, Freya would practice her new magic as well. Months turned into years, and she really bonded with the kids, and Matrix became her dad of a sense. And Freya slowly forgot her friends. Almost. And that's all for the grand finale of Book 1, Part 1, Chapter 10. But anyway, so yes, Freya killed her dad. He. That was the big surprise. Also, Ficfonus is kind of no more. Anyway. I hope you enjoyed, and you hate me now because I totally just tortured poor Freya. Bye.